This is kind of interesting. I just watching Mohamed Elmasry on Michael Cohen's show here on YouTube, and he said something that really bothered me. Now, in my opinion, Mr. Elmasry, you're a bigot and should be silenced. But you do have a right to say what you want to say. But your comment that any Israeli civilian in uniform or out is a member of the Israeli armed forces, well, by the same token, idiot, any member of Hamas in or out of uniform, if they don't wear uniform, is a legitimate target, which means any Muslim too. So it goes both ways. The stupid thing about all this nonsense is the Jews of Israel have tried to have peace many times. They've given up land, they've given up settlements, and each time you Muslims attack them again and again and claim the land of Israel is occupied. Well, let's look at actual history. The land of Israel, in fact, was held by the Jews for over 3 millennia. They've endured many occupiers. At one time, the Roman Empire occupied the land, and when the Jews would not place the statue of Caesar in the temple and worship it as a god, there was a rebellion, and the Jews were scattered to the wind. Where do you think the saying, next year in Jerusalem, the Jews came from? And then there's this too. Muslims were not in Jerusalem and the Middle East until around 800 AD when they invaded and occupied the land. Now, I'm aware there's some passages in the Coren, which incidentally, in my opinion, is a cheap ripoff of the Bible, that says that any land a Muslim occupies is forever consecrated Muslim land. Well, all I can say to that is, get a life. You can have peace tomorrow if you wanted, but you got your head so far up your asses that you really need to come up for air. And Mr. Elmasry, if you're so much in love with Sharia law and everything else that goes with it, and the Muslims in the Middle East, why don't you go back where the heck you came from? As a Canadian, I'm disgusted to see you here spouting your bigotry. It's a shame the Human Rights Commission doesn't go after you like you went after the Maclean's magazine. Pretty disgusting. But it's a free society, and a person has a right to speak out as they wish. But any other Muslims think Michael Elmasry is right in saying any Muslim, whether any Jew should be in Israel should be gone after because they're over the age of 18 to adulthood. Great. That's your business. I think you're wrong. But then there's also things in the Quran that basically say anybody that rejects Muhammad and rejects Allah and his prophet Muhammad as an unbeliever is not innocent. So it's interesting doublespeak. Reminds me very much of the book 1984. But then I'm not too surprised to see this sort of happening with the Arab Muslims in the Middle East, around the world. We saw the same thing happen in 1939 through 1945 under Nazi Germany. And it's interesting that the Mufti of Jerusalem wanted to have a death camp set up in Transjordan, which is actually the correct name for what they're calling Palestine now, and originally part of the Ottoman Empire. I guess there never was a Palestinian people, the Arab occupiers, that they sort of lost my train of thought. That he wanted to set up the death camp and was turned down. And 6 times since 1948, the Muslim countries in the Middle East have tried to overrun and wipe out the Jews. The cry is drive them into the sea. You have the president of Iran denying the Holocaust. And as I said once again, you can have peace the way you want it, There was a plan in place by the end of the UN that would have divided land between Israel and the Arabs, and you guys turned it down flat. You're worse than the damn Catholics and the Protestants in Northern Ireland. I really wish you guys would get your act together, get your heads out of whatever pig trough they're in, and start using what little brains you have. If you don't, all I can say is, why don't you go over to NASA? I hear they're looking for a perfect vacuum, and I think some of you Arabs definitely, or Muslims would definitely be able to supply that. So you don't like what I have to say? Tough. That's what the West is about, free speech. And the right to criticize their religion. I even have my doubts that Islam is really a religion.